Dear students, today we are going to learn about the Chalukyas of Badami, the first unit of the paper Indian History and Culture from 712 to 526 Common Era. The period between 540 Common Era and 757 Common Era in the history of the Deccan heralded a new epoch with the rule of the Chalukyas. Inscriptions which form the major source of information about the Chalukyas of Badami are silent about their origins. The dynastic eulogy, that is Vamsa Prasasti, which appears first in the Badami cave inscription of Kirtivarman I, dated to 578 Common Era, mentions that the Chalukyas as those who meditated at the feet of Lord Mahasena and describes them as belonging to the lineage of Manavya, that is Manavya Sagotranam, and descendants of Hariti, that is Hariti Putranam. The lineage which adopted from the Kadambas, whom they defeated and came to power. From the time of Pulakesi II, the Prasasti was further enlarged by adding the phrase that the Chalukyas were nourished by the 7 mothers of the world, namely Saptaloka Matribir Abhivriddhitanam. They are the Brahmani, wife of Brahma, Maheshwari, wife of Shiva, Kaumari, wife of Kumara, Vaishnavi, wife of Vishnu, Varahi, wife of Varaha or the boar incarnation of Vishnu, and Indrani, wife of Indra, and Chamunda, wife of Yama. Their fortunes were protected by Kartikeya, and that they were bestowed with Varaha insignia of Lord Narayana. A detailed story of who the Chalukyas were and their original home is not recorded, but their different versions appear in the epigraphs of the Chalukyas of Vengi and Chalukyas of Kalyani. So, however, I am not going to detail here this original origins of the Chalukyas, but instead now I am going to explain the political history of the Chalukyas of Badami. The earliest members of the Chalukyas of Badami are Jaisimha and Ranaraga. They were the local chiefs who ruled the region around Badami in modern Karnataka during the 5th century Common Era. Ranaraga's successor, Pulakesi I, who ruled from 540 to 566 CE, was the first independent ruler of this dynasty. Soon after his accession to power, he launched a campaign against the Kadambas, defeated them and performed Aswamedha and other sacrifices. He fortified the Badami or Vatapi, which was also called as Vatapi, and made it the capital of his kingdom in 543 Common Era. He assumed the titles Vallabheswara, Ranavikrama, Dharma Maharaja, Satyasraya Ranavikranta. He married Durlabha Devi, the princess of Bhatpura family, and Indrakanti, who belonged to the contemporary royal family. Pulakesi I also had matrimonial alliance with the Senraka family, the subordinates of the Chalukyas. Through the process of conquest and marriage alliances, Pulakesi was thus able to lay strong foundation to the Chalukyan kingdom. Pulakesi's successor was his son Kirtivarma I, who ruled from 566 to 592 Common Era. He followed his father's policy in the subjugation of his enemies. As a prince, he subdued the Nalas, Mauryas of Konkan and Kadambas of Banavasi. The Mahakota inscription mentions that he had defeated the kings of Vanga, Anga, Kalinga, Vattura, Magadha, Madraka, Kerala, Ganga, Musaka, Pandya, Dramila, Choliya, Aluka and Vaijayanti, and brought the fertile lands and strategic areas of the Deccan under his control. After Kirtivarman I, his younger brother Mangalesa succeeded as the farmer's sons were too young to rule. During his tenure as a king, Mangalesa conquered Revatidvipa on the western coast and continued to have cordial relations with Adibappuras and Sendraka chiefs. He had assumed an epithet Uru Vikranta. Among the Badami Chalukyan rulers, Pulakesi II, who ruled from 610 to 642 CE, was the greatest. During his time, the Chalukyan fame reached its zenith. The Aihole inscription of Pulakesi II describes his various military conquests, which includes the conquest of the Latas, the Mauryas of Konkan, the Malavas and the Gurjaras. He also curtailed the advancement of Harshavardhana into the Deccan by defeating him on the banks of river Narmada. He defeated the Vishnukundins of Vengi and conquered the impregnable fortress of the Pishtapura. He besieged the Pallava capital Kanchi. He expanded the Chalukyan power in the entire Deccan through his conquests. For reasons of political strategy and to perpetuate his control over the conquered region, Pulakesi II evolved viable administrative units and deputed his brother Kubja Vishnuvardhana to rule the Vengi region. As a result of these measures, a new branch of Vengi Chalukyan kingdom was created. He also exploited the economic resources of the regions to further strengthen his kingdom. Pulakesi was ambitious to conquer the Pallava kingdom. He began his campaign against Pallavas by first attacking the Banas, who were the feudatories of the Pallavas in Rayalaseema region. After defeating the Banas, he invaded the Pallava territory and threatened their capital Kanchi. But the Pallava ruler Narasimhavarman I defeated Pulakesi II in the battles of Manimangalam and Periyala and Suramara and occupied Badami and put an end to Pulakesi II's life. During Pulakesi II's time, the Chalukyan empire expanded in the north from Narmada river up to the Nilagiri hills in the south, Bay of Bengal in the east and Arabian Sea in the west. His fame reached Persian Emperor Khusro II, who sent his ambassador with many gifts seeking friendship with him. This visit of the Persian ambassador was depicted on a painting in the Ajanta caves. The Chinese traveller Huan Sang also visited the Chalukyan kingdom during his reign, who mentions that this king Pulakesi II was very wealthy and hardworking. After Pulakesi II's death, Chalukyan kingdom was in chaos for nearly 12 years. The feudatories of the Chalukyas declared independence. Pulakesi II's sons Chandraditya, Adityavarma, Prithvivarma, who ruled as viceroys of different provinces, were not strong enough to oppose the Pallava hegemony over Badami. Vikramaditya I, who ruled from 654 to 671 Common Era, was another son of Pulakesi II. He changed the situation after 12 years. With the help of his steed Chitrakanta, he was able to accomplish victory over the Pallavas. He compelled Narasimhavarman to retire from Badami and defeated his brothers and other feudatories who were trying to divide the Badami Chalukyan empire. He thus restored the Chalukyan rule in Badami. He rewarded his younger brother Jayasimhavarman the viceroyalty of Lata or southern Gujarat. Vikramaditya also had epithets Kokkoli and Anavarita. Vikramaditya II was succeeded by his son Vinayaditya, who ruled from 671 to 696 Common Era. He was successful in controlling the subordinate chiefs and humbled the Pallavas. His son Vijayaditya, 696 to 733 Common Era, had the longest reign among the Badami Chalukyan rulers. As a prince, Vijayaditya participated in the expedition of northern India and acquired the royal symbols of Ganga Yamuna, Palidhwaja, Pada or kettle drum, Dhakka, that is war drum, and precious stones and war elephants. The only war he fought after he became the king was against Pallava ruler Parameshwaravarman II, which took place during the last years of his reign. This war was led by Prince Vikramaditya II. The long rule of Vijayaditya was marked by general peace and prosperity in the empire. He spent most of his time in humanitarian, religious and philanthropic activities in various parts of his empire. He extended support for the construction of temples also. He contributed for the construction of an enclosure wall around the Alampur temples, built Sangameshwara temple, which is also called as Vijayeshwara temple at Pattadakkal, and extended patronage to Shiva temple at Aihole. He also made donations to Vaidika Brahmins, Bhagavatas, Saivas, Buddhas and Jain monks. He had the title Niravadya Prakara. The relationship between the Chalukyas and their subordinates Sendrakas, Alupas, Gangas and Banas were further strengthened by cementing marriage alliances. Vijayaditya had married a Sendraka princess, and his sister Kunkuma Mahadevi was given in marriage to the Alupa prince Chitravahana. Vijayaditya was succeeded by his son Vikramaditya II, who ruled from 733 to 744 Common Era. Two major events mark his reign. First, Vikramaditya II resumed his vengeance over the Pallavas of Kanchi by attacking it thrice. His Pallava adversary was Nandivarman II. During his first two expeditions, Vikramaditya defeated Nandivarman and acquired the royal insignia comprising Katumukha, that is musical drum, Samudra Gosha, special musical instrument, and Katavanga Dvaja, the royal standard. Apart from these, he also obtained war elephants, precious stones and cartloads of gold. But Vikramaditya distributed all this wealth to the temple of Rajasimheswara built by Narasimhavarman II and to Brahmins and poor citizens of Kanchi. His third conquest over Kanchi took place upon the request of the crown prince Kirtivarman II, who was desirous to uproot their arch rival Nandivarman II. In this war, Kirtivarman II not only defeated Nandivarman II, but acquired abundant wealth which he presented to his father Vikramaditya. Second most important event of Vikramaditya II's reign was the invasion of Tajikas, that is Arabs, who after the conquest of Sindh penetrated into the Deccan, but were effectively tackled by Pulakesi, the son of Jaisimhavarman of the Lata branch of Chalukyas, and Rashtrakuta Dantivarman. Among the subordinate chiefs who helped Vikramaditya II were the Haihayas, with whom they had matrimonial alliances, and the Rashtrakuta family. The last Chalukyan ruler of Badami line was Kirtivarman II, who ruled from 744 to 757 Common Era. He was the son of Vikramaditya II and his Haihaya queen Trilokya Mahadevi. During his reign, the Rashtrakutas under Dantidurga rose to political prominence in the northern Deccan. The Chalukyas, who were busy in the south, failed to notice the growing strength of the Rashtrakutas. Indraraja, son of Dantidurga, having subdued the Gurjaras and other kings, turned his attention towards the Chalukyas. His Ellora inscription states that, seeing the opportune time, he had inflicted a crushing defeat on the invincible army of Kirtivarman II sometime between 752 and 753 CE and proclaimed himself as a sovereign ruler of the Deccan. Kirtivarman II continued to rule in obscurity till 757 CE, the year in which the Chalukyas' power in Badami was completely vanquished, giving way to the Rashtrakuta rule in the Deccan. Coming to the administration aspects of the Chalukyas of Badami, apart from territorial expansion and political consolidation of power through conquests and matrimonial alliances with powerful subordinates, the Chalukyas of Badami also evolved various mechanisms such as administrative, economic and ideological, through which they were able to exercise control over the kingdom. Inscriptions shed light on the administrative structure of the Badami Chalukyas. According to the inscriptional sources, the king occupied a highest position in the administration. He was assisted by family members, relatives and other ministers. When the king was in military campaign, the administration was looked after by prince or Yuvaraja. The subordinate chiefs such as Sendrakas, Alupas, Gangas, Banas and others carried administration in their respective assigned regions. They rendered military assistance to the king whenever required. The Chalukyan Empire was divided into Rashtra, which was the largest territorial unit. Rashtras were further divided into Vishayas or Nadu, which comprised group of villages. Vishayapati or Nalgamunda looked after the affairs in the Nadu or Vishaya. The Grama or village constituted the smallest unit of administration. It was placed under a local officer called Gramika or Grama Bhogika or Gamunda. An important feature of the new feature in the Chalukyan administration was the use of numerical suffixes to administrative divisions such as Belvola 300, Jeduguru 70, Jidulige 70 and so on. These were noticed for the first time in the Lakshmeshwar inscription of Vinayaditya. This feature becomes more prolific in the inscriptions of Chalukyas of Kalyani later. Now, coming to the economic conditions, for effective control of the conquered territories, the Chalukyan rulers evolved the economic mechanism of donating land grants to noted Brahmins and other officers. As the lands were given in far off regions, this also led to agricultural expansion and brought many economically viable zones under their control. The queens, princes and other subordinate chiefs made land donations after obtaining consent from the king. The king makes own decisions in the imposition or remission of taxes. Many taxes such as Tere, Aruhana, Pana, Kavarte, etc. appear in the inscriptions. 1/6 of the produce was collected as land tax. Craft and trade guilds also paid taxes. The Chinese traveller Huansang wrote that the emperor divided his income into 4 parts. The first part is spent for managing the government. The second part was spent for paying the salaries to the employees. The third one was spent for artists, poets and scholars, and the fourth was meant for the donations. The ideological mechanism of the Chalukyas included the patronization of religions and construction of temples. The Badami Chalukyan kings and queens patronized Saivism, Vaishnavism, Buddhism and Jainism. Sanskrit became the official language during this period. Ravikirti, the composer of Aihole Prasasti, was a great Sanskrit poet who lived in the court of Pulakesi II. Bharavi, also who lived in this period, wrote Kiratarjuniyam. To promote the religions that the kings have patronized, they have constructed temples in new styles. Based on the style of temples, the Chalukyan temple architecture has been divided into three phases. The first phase of temples from 6th century Common Era are found at Aihole and belong to Vaishnava and Jain religions. These were constructed in caves. The second phase, that is 7th century Common Era, the temples belonging to this phase were constructed at Badami and Aihole, but these temples were constructed in the Dravidian style. Some of the prominent temples of this style were Megunti Jain temple and Durga temple at Aihole. During the third phase, that is 8th century, the temple construction of Chalukyas introduced new innovations in temple building. They adopted the Nagara style of North Indian and the Dravida style of South India and evolved a new style called the Vesara style of architecture. Papanada temple and Galaganada temples at Pattadakkal and Bhutanada temples at Badami are the best examples of this style of temple architecture. Thus, this whole narration of the Badami Chalukyas informs us that the Chalukyas have played a very important role during the 5th to 7th century CE and contributed a lot for enriching the Deccan heritage. Thank you.